Welcome to the Screen the Screener College Basketball Podcast with your hosts, Mike Randle and Gus Kearns.
Welcome into the Screen the Screener College Basketball Podcast, where we continue our preview of all 357 Division I college basketball teams. We are staying local. We are going back to my old stomping grounds today with Guy Falotico for the Iona Gaels. Follow him on Twitter at IonaGuyF. He has all the insight that you need for Iona. Of course, Iona, a legendary program dominating the MAAC, brought in Rick Pitino and just continued rolling along. He's the moderator of IonaHoops.com, also has a fantastic podcast, IonaHoops.com. You can get him on Twitter at IonaGuyF or follow the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Guy, my friend, good to have you back on here. We have a season and we're going to have fans in the stands. How you doing?
Oh, don't jinx it. Don't jinx it.
Sorry, yes.
Coming back, all the Delta variants and all that. Please, everybody get vaccinated. I'm not going to preach like the government does, but just go get vaccinated so we can have a season. Do it for basketball.
Yeah. I've known you now for a while. And as you know, I used to reside in New Rochelle there with my wife before we had kids, would take a stroll over, would watch games there, at home in the arena. Just a great program. And it must have been exciting, man. What a great year for Iona.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because it was so abbreviated. I mean, we started out, when COVID hit, and like a week later is when Pitino got the job. So it was kind of like a strange transition there from the Tim Cluess era from, going into COVID, but then getting Pitino at the same time. So, the off season was weird, and just following the recruiting online and all the Zoom recruiting all of a sudden then suddenly was happening. It was just a strange year, and again, then they shut down more than any other program in the country.
Yep.
So it was like the season. I mean, there were a lot of Iona fans that were like, I don't even count this season. I'm sure they changed their tune after what happened in March, but there were a lot of people who just weren't into it. You couldn't go to games. It wasn't like it was a real season.
I remember reading Rick's stuff on social media about how he was getting frustrated with the quarantines, the practice time. Look, Rick Pitino, Hall of Fame coach, Iona, super talented, one of the best teams, and a small school team. No one wants to play across the country, but he needs the reps to put his style in. So early on there, non-conference, Seton Hall, Hofstra, and then I will tell you, Guy, and we'll get into the gambling aspects as well. One of the most bizarre games to me was the Morgan State game, and we were going back and forth about it. But talk about the start to the season for Iona, getting, back and forth with the quarantines, and then really sort of an up and down start until they got going there.
Well, yeah. And as you said, you saw the potential. They were right in it with Seton Hall for quite a while before falling apart.
Yes, they got tired. They just got tired.
And they were coming off a stop before that.
Yep.
So I'm not really surprised they lost their legs. Hofstra was a really solid win, and you started to feel it. And the arrival of Nelly Jr. Joseph to the program, you started to really feel it at that point. And then Morgan State happened, and everybody was like, okay.
Guys, 11 of 19 from three-point range for Morgan State. I remember watching that. Troy Baxter, Legio Granson combined 10 of 14 from three-point range. Just an anomaly.
and that led to, and we just didn't know what to make of the team at that point. One thing that Pitino kept saying early on, and then, they had a very uneven stretch there against Fairfield. They blew out Fairfield, then got blown out by Fairfield, which wasn't at the time wasn't much of a team, and a couple uneven but wins against Ryder, and then another shutdown, and then so it was just very uneven. But the Pitino would say at that point, we're just not getting practice time. We have to keep shutting down. So he can't even put it in his system. He never got to put it in his system. They played basic man-to-man defense, and that's all they did because they couldn't put in any of the Pitino presses that anybody who's been following basketball for the last, 30 years has come to know and watch and enjoy. None of that was even implemented. It was just, and even the offense was never really quite established. They had a couple really good scorers, and they, as they went, so would the team. But it was, again, a lot of uneven performances, a lot of shutdowns. That was really the case up until mid-February, really.
We joked because, of course, I do some wagering for Action Network. Beginning of the year is just interesting. The loss to Seton Hall, they were right in it. In fact, they were getting 20 points in that game. They were right in that game. They just got tired, like you said. Then the win at Hofstra, fantastic, at 8.5 on the road to get the outright win. Then Morgan State was the bizarre game. And then they finally got things going there when they were able to get the reps in the middle of the year. Beat Ryder twice, Coppin State, Manhattan. Manhattan with the home and home, that's fine. But really, Guy, what turned it around is they battled. They stayed with it. And then from Saturday, February 20th, they did not play another game until the MAAC tournament on Tuesday, March 9th. So I'm going to tell you, I was a little nervous about that going into the MAAC tournament, but talk about it because they took off 4 games in a row with a big win over Fairfield there to win the MAAC conference tournament title.
Well, yeah, they had the last game against Coppin State on December 23rd, and they had won that, and you're feeling pretty good generally about how the team has played. Not great, but they were playing all right. Basically, were then off until February 12th, and then, like you said, they played Manhattan 2 games, split them, and Manhattan wasn't great last year, so a lot of people, and then they followed that up with lost to Quinnipiac. So at that point, everybody's like, all right, maybe the lack of practice time's catching up. It's just going to be one of those kind of years. But then they had the 2 games against Monmouth, who, was one of the best 2 or 3 teams in the MAAC.
A little bit of bad blood there, Guy, if I remember correctly, with Monmouth. Yes.
Yeah. And Iona, that was just, Iona just destroyed Monmouth pretty much all weekend, save for a few minutes in the second half of the first meeting when Monmouth went on a run and made it closer than it really was. And then so it was time to shut down again. So, and would they even be in the MAAC tournament? Who knows? But those 2 Monmouth games left everybody thinking, maybe this team really is going to be a threat up in over in Atlantic City. If there even was a tournament, we didn't even know because teams in Canisius and Iona were both very iffy up until a few days before the tournament. So, and then the tournament. I mean, I think what Iona did during that shutdown was they said, "Okay, we're just going to win with defense. We're gonna suffocate everybody." And they gave up 48 to Quinnipiac. They gave up, the Siena game was a classic. First of all, the Siena fans were and I like to tweak my friends from Siena. They were very upset about that matchup. How was Iona a 9 seed? The MAAC did something really funky because everybody had very uneven number of games. They just went by win total to seed the team. So Iona ended up being the 9 seed, even though most fans really believed that they were probably the second or third best team at worst in the MAAC, and they were seeded 9th. So Siena fans are griping, "Oh wow, we're gonna have to play Iona in the quarterfinals," and that was just a war. I mean, it was a defensive war. It was a strange stretch. Iona was down 9 with about 9 minutes to go, and you started to say, well, the legs are catching up. All the shutdowns are catching up. Siena's a solid team. You just started to see, you were almost there. And Jalen Pickett's driving to the basket, and he's about to put Siena up 11. And out of nowhere, Barrick Jean-Louis rejects him. And that triggers a run. Siena didn't score for 8 minutes. Iona took over the game. And the rest is history. They handled Niagara and then Fairfield after that. And won the MAAC again. And again, just behind this ridiculous defense the rest of the way. Again, not even doing Pitino's system, just straight up man playing defense. And it was enough. But it really, I felt it for the kids. They really deserved it because of all the shutdowns to have turned that around the way they did and to get another MAAC title was such a great feeling.
You told me about Barrick Jean-Louis. Did not know much about him. And in that game, that was the game because Siena was the 1 seed. They were up and down. Manny Camper shut down in that game, 40 minutes, 6 points for Siena because of the defense. Jalen Pickett, 13 points. But really, like you said, they matched them. Barrick Jean-Louis, 13 points, made 2 threes, had 5 steals in that game. When they got by Siena, I said, oh, here we go. Because they played the 5 seed Niagara. They played Fairfield, who had a couple upsets. They beat St. Peter's. I was looking forward to an Iona St. Peter's matchup, but the whole thing with Holloway didn't happen. Just a fantastic run for the Gaels. How'd you feel going in the NCAA tournament there? They got the 15 seed playing Alabama. What were your thoughts going in there?
Well, when you're 15 and you're playing a 2, there's no such thing as a good matchup. And Iona probably got the best 2 seed out of all of them, or at least one. It's hard to say for sure, but I felt like if Iona could play it, the way Iona was defending, that they were going to be able to hang around if they can just find enough offense themselves, and they were, and they did. I really fell on Isaiah Ross to do a lot of the scoring in that one, but because they're just the talent level between the 2 teams is so different. But Pitino had a plan. Barrick Jean-Louis was ridiculous on the defensive end in that game. Nelly Jr. Joseph played really well when he in that game as well. But again, it was a battle for 3/4 of the game, and then Alabama had one run, just one quick. It was like a 11-2 run or something like that, and then the game evened out again. But by then it was too late, and it was a great performance, and we're going to see a rematch of that one actually.
It's going to be incredible, and with 10 minutes left to go in that game.
Yep.
It was a 1-point game.
Yep.
And they made the little run there. And I have to tell you, full disclosure, Guy, I thought that was a bad matchup. I was high on Iona, of course, but I said, I don't think it's going to be Alabama. They have better athletes. They're going to run. They're going to lock down. I did not think Iona could stay with them. And they took their punch early on, but they battled back. Real impressive job by Pitino's crew.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great moment, and I was, obviously fans were very limited to go to the NCAA tournament this year, but I was fortunate enough to be there.
Great.
It was great being in Hinkle. I'd never been to Hinkle before, so that was a blast. And again, it was even with the fans being limited in number, it was a great atmosphere, and you just felt that Iona was able to go toe to toe, and that's why there's so much anticipation for this year.
And talk about continuity. We'll get to the new players coming in a minute, but talk about the players recruiting, who has left, because knowing Pitino's system takes a little bit of time, as we saw, but coming into this year, high expectations, second year, great schedule. Talk about players returning here for the Gaels.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy when you think about guys that are leaving. I mean, they're losing a senior backcourt. They're losing Asante Gist, who was a senior point guard or a combo guard, Zaire Ross, who is the shooting guard, but he was a ridiculous 3-point shooter and just a great pure scorer. So how do you lose that and still be, optimistic for the next year? Well, Iona hit the portal, and we'll get to that in a bit. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot. Yeah. Like you said, there's a lot returning. We saw just the onset of Nelly Jr. Joseph, 6'10" center, just scratching the surface of what he can be. I mean, he can probably play in any conference in the country. He has that kind of skill set and poise. I mean, he's mature for his age. And I can't wait to see him grow. And he's one of those guys you're hoping Pitino can protect, and no big school plucks away after this year. Mm-hmm. And then you also bring him back Barrick Jean-Louis, who again we talked about. He might be one of my most favorite Gaels over the last few years. He's just a warrior, just an absolute warrior out there. Mm-hmm. He doesn't get tired. His defensive attitude is just relentless. He's deceptive on the offensive end because he makes threes, and he'll only get better as a scorer this year. So I'm excited for him. But then not to be lost in the shuffle a little bit, they were also returning Dylan Van Eyck, who was a senior last year, but because of the extra year had a choice. And I was curious to see what he was going to do. And he opted to come back. I mean, he averaged, 7 and 6. Also was kind of like a point forward at times. So his experience is very valuable. Iona's going to be a little deeper in the front court this year. So it'll be interesting to see his role, but his leadership is going to be vital on a team that lost 2 seniors like that in the backcourt.
Talk about the new players coming in. Gaels here, as per 24/7, number 1 rank in the MAAC with the players coming in. And like you said, the transfer portal, it taketh away, but it also giveth, right, Guy?
That's exactly right. Before I leave the guys returning, I have to mention Ryan Myers. He was a freshman guard last year.
Local guy. Yep.
Averaged 6 a game, but he shot 43% from 3. And Pitino's already been raving about him this offseason. So during the workouts for this summer, which I'm going to talk more about the summer in a little bit as well. So he's ready to go, and he'll be that first guard off the bench. So let's talk about some of the new guys. Like I said, the portal, it's a big debate. And in my own podcast, I've asked every guest, is a portal good or bad? And as you can imagine, very mixed reviews on it, but boy, Iona really got a lot out of it. You start off getting Tyson Jolly from SMU.
Huge.
He was third team All AAC in 2019. He averaged, 14 and a half at 6 boards a game, 38% from 3. His numbers dropped a little bit for health reasons, for personal reasons. He averaged only 9 and 5, still shot 39% from 3. But if he's right, if his head's right and he's ready to go, he is a legit MAAC Player of the Year candidate. And he certainly is a legit threat to lead Iona in scoring this year. So I'm excited about him. He's a 6'4" kid, so he's a big guard too.
Former Baylor guy, real athletic player, gritty, tough defense from SMU with Jankovic down there. Love the addition. Yep. And
here's the kid I love as well, Elijah Joyner, 6'3" point guard from Tulsa. He averaged 11, 4 and 4. He had a 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. So he's not a great shooter, but he goes to the basket really well. This is going to be a strange thing to say because Asante Gist was so solid for Iona down the stretch. he's an upgrade on Asante Gist.
I agree with you. Yep.
And he's probably a better defender. Again, at 6'3", he's also a lot bigger than Asante. So that's going to be really interesting to see Joyner and Jolly starting that backcourt with Myers coming off the bench as a 3-point specialist. Mm-hmm. And then the portal gave us one more late gift. Quinn Slazinski, transfer from LSU, 6'8" sophomore forward. He was regular in their rotation, 21 minutes a game. He averaged about 6 and 4. Came in with a reputation as a shooter, didn't really put up those kind of shooting numbers, but watching him play, he's got a lot of Dylan Van Eyck in him. So it'll be interesting to see how Slazinski fits in, but yeah, the portal, extremely good to Iona for sure with those three.
The great coaches recruit to a style. They bring in players to a style. I saw Elijah Joyner down in Tulsa, those battles with Memphis. Big performances there when they needed them. And I saw Elijah Joyner against Memphis. They beat them at home, 14 points, 5 rebounds, played 35 minutes. Then later in the year, they played a tough game, tough loss to Wichita. Then they played UT Arlington. I mean, he always showed up. Another win against Memphis. Only had the 5 points, but ended up having 6 rebounds, made 5 of 6 from the free throw line. That is the type of guy. Him and Jolly, you're seeing the transformation here with Iona. These are real impact guys. And of course, your shooters, like you said, you surround them. So great job with the transfer portal. What about the freshmen coming in?
Well, I'm going to start with Trey James, who actually joined Iona over the holidays last year. He graduated high school early. He's 6'10", forward center, originally committed to Wake Forest, and then he decommitted when they had a coaching change. He was an ESPN 4-star recruit. He didn't really play much because he just wasn't in shape. He lost his senior high school season because of COVID. So he really hadn't played for like a year and a half. So basically he just spent, the time learning the system, getting to work out against somebody like Nelly Jr. Joseph and Osborne Shima, Iona's backup center, a lot, and just kind of got his reps, getting into shape, learning the system. So, but they're excited about him. And it's hard to imagine when you have all the bigs Iona have, but they're excited about this kid too, but they are. 3 other freshmen coming in. Walter Clayton Jr. is a 6'3" point guard. He chose Iona over Tulsa and East Carolina and East Tennessee State. He was also recruited heavily for football, so he's got that kind of mentality.
Big athlete,
great athlete who fits in. He'll fit in that system well. And again, because of the senior guards, he's going to have time to grow there. Jordan Wild, he's a 6'9" forward. He chose Iona over Southern Miss, Illinois, Chicago, Tulane, LaSalle. There was a report recently that he might get redshirted. He's a little thin, but he's got a great skill set. If you watch his highlight video, I mean, he's actually more of a small forward. I think it's 6'9". So it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. And then they have Josh Duwash. He's like the mystery card. He's a 6'6" combo guard. He's from Australia. He chose Iona. He had an actually offer from Maryland, Portland and Weber State as well. He's actually still in Australia right now playing for a club team. So he's not on campus yet for the Gaels, but he should be there pretty soon. But, he's got a reputation as one of those kids that just a do-all type kid, and again, one of those overseas kids. Again, it's almost like Nelly Jr. Joseph. He kind of came in, nobody expected much out of Nelly Jr. Joseph, and look what he did. So Josh Duwash, his highlight tape isn't so great, and you're watching him play, and it's like, well, we'll see what he does. And I have a feeling he's going to be like one of those sleeper kids that's going to see a lot of time. He might be more mature for his age than the other freshmen. Who knows? So lots of talent. The biggest battle, of course, where are they getting all the minutes? The answer might be in the fact that Pitino is getting a chance to put in his system this year.
Yes.
So we're not going to just play 7-8 guys and just play straight man. Pitino's going to run his presses. So we're going to go 10, 11, 12 deep. And these guys are going to get a chance to play.
Now, their schedule, Rick has been able to get his way, get the teams, line up some great battles. They also have a trip going to Greece soon, right, Guy? So talk about what they have here for the preparation for the season, and then, of course, non-conference as well.
Yeah, that was finally announced. It was rumored for a while that Iona would be going to Greece to play some of the club teams over there, including Pitino's team that he was coaching before Iona. And finally, with all the COVID, it was a big question mark. But finally, it was announced that they're definitely going. Just a few days ago, they announced it. So again, that's five games against 4 different teams. Great life experience of going to Greece for 11 days. But again, the camaraderie they'll get to establish. getting to work on the Pitino system that is already being put in the summer workouts. And I mean, just what a leg up. You're giving Rick Pitino a leg up.
Dangerous. Not good. Yeah.
No, that's not good for the rest of the MAAC for sure. What I'm hoping is that we see a translation of that as we get into the actually non-conference part of the schedule in November, that will already be a little bit ahead of the curve, having those extra games in, and getting guys like Jolly and Joyner a little acclimated, and the freshmen of course as well, and getting chemistry is huge on a trip like this. You really build it. So looking forward to see what happens with that.
It's amazing to think about, the experience in Greece is going to be tremendous, especially for the bigs. Junior Joseph was the MAAC Rookie of the Year last year. Osborne's a 7-footer. Trey James, you mentioned. It's hard to get competition for the bigs, I would think. Going to Greece is probably one of the targeted reasons why, was to get these bigs ready, because it's gonna be a huge advantage for an Iona in the MAAC to have quality size and depth to press and to get up on you defensively. But they're going to fine tune the bigs, which I think, guys, hard to do when they're young in a small conference. No,
I definitely agree. And basically they're, especially in the MAAC, there just aren't that many big players to begin with. There aren't that many true centers in the league that have any real skill set. So, Iona can have 2 or 3 of the best centers in the league already. So you take a trip like this where you're going to see that Euro style quality big, who's seasoned and he's veteran, and it's such a great experience for these kids. I mean, we were trying to say it on the Iona message board. A couple of people were talking about the rules and worried about things like that. The results of these games don't matter. I mean, they're going to play two very good Greek pro teams that are probably going to wipe the floor with us, but the experience of playing those teams and working on your system. I mean, if you have any level of success there, my gosh, I mean, the confidence that they're going to have going into the actual NCAA games is going to be great.
Guy, last question. This has been amazing. We'll get you out of here. 5 straight MAAC championships for Iona. Pitino now with a full season. Great new players coming in, starters from other programs, recruits, a lot of guys returning, huge size. What are your expectations here for the Gaels in 2021, 2022?
Well, a lot of it's going to depend on how they perform at a conference. And hopefully, again, like I said, they have that leg up. I'll quickly run through the non-conference schedule. They're in terms of what I know of already, they're playing in the ESPN Orlando event with Kansas and Alabama. They get to see Alabama in the first round of that. And the next round of that is Belmont and Drake. The other side of that bracket is Kansas, Dayton, Miami, and North Texas. So that's a great field. You're going to get 3 great games out of that, right around Thanksgiving. I'm going to be down there for that. I'm pumped.
Nice. Good.
Yep. Playing Yale and Brooklyn, playing Seton Hall at Madison Square Garden. So they get another shot at Seton Hall. So we'll see what happens with there. Hosting Hofstra. It's a good game. Other games are still being worked on against some quality mids. And so the schedule's going to be solid. And, but you're gonna have to perform well at it. Pitino has said that he wants to see Iona get that 12 or 13 seed to have a legitimate shot to beat somebody in the NCAA tournament. I think that's a realistic goal. I mean, if they can perform well against this schedule, maybe even come out of Orlando with something like a 2-1 record instead of going 0-3 or whatever. You have that shot at that 12 seed, and you want to be that team that nobody wants to see if you're the 5. Pitino at a good mid-major, nobody wants to play him in that spot. So that's in my mind, I think that's a legitimate goal, 12, 13 seed. Of course, winning the MAAC again. They should finish first in the MAAC, making sure you take care of business in Atlantic City for the tournament. And then, take your shot, 12 or 13 seed would be great.
There is nothing, Guy, I love more, or that we love more of this podcast, than those dangerous mid-majors in March. Talked to head coach John Becker of Vermont. I said, who wants to see Vermont after what you've been through? Same is true with Iona. Drake last year.
Yep.
It's exciting because the country doesn't know them nationally to a certain extent, and the big guys are like, oh, here we go. It's just one of those situations. So listen, Guy, I could talk to you for another hour here. Awesome job, folks. Guy Falotico, have to follow him on Twitter at IonaGuyF, moderator, IonaHoops.com. You want to know anything about Iona, he is the only guy to go to. He's got the podcast as well. Check it out, IonaHoops.com with Guy Falotico. Guy, pleasure, my friend. We'll be talking during the season. I'm just happy that we're talking about basketball here. Maybe some quarantines along the way, but nothing like we saw last year, I hope. But it's a big year for the Gaels in 2021-22.
Oh, man, I'm so excited for it. And I just can't wait to be there in person and experience it all. And there's so many, like I said, so many great trips and neutral site games Iona is going to be part of. I'm going to be as many of them as I can get to. And can't wait. And then let's get back to the NCAAs and see where we can go.
Yep. Get your popcorn ready. Thanks, Guy.
Thank you very much, man.